Some of you may know that my youngest daughter beat stage 4 cancer on the 29th of May this year, 2020. But to be honest, I haven't actually spoken about it much because it's the greatest challenge I've ever faced, and right now it's still actually pretty raw. Only a couple of weeks ago they even thought it had come back. But since September is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, I thought for this week's Snappy Science I'd share one thing that I learned about cancer that I didn't realise properly or didn't really know before. And it's also something that you can apply to many areas of your own life. Roll the intro. What's up, nerds? So on the 18th of December 2019, my youngest daughter was diagnosed with stage 2 Hodgkin's lymphoma. Hold on, didn't you just say it was stage 4? Don't worry, we'll get to that. On Christmas Eve, she had surgery to put a port in, and shortly after that, we got on the chemo train. Or as our oncologist put it, once I sign these papers, you're getting on a treadmill and you can't get off until I tell you to. Short story for her, it was a rough ride of chemo, hospital stays, needles, losing hair, her friends asking her if she was going to die, and put on top of that COVID in amongst it all. And when you take something like chemo, it's essentially shutting off the body and breaking it down so it can be fully repaired again. As a parent, it's incredibly challenging to tell your kid that they have to take a medicine that is going to make them sick. Like really sick. She went from a regular child to being able to barely walk by the time she was done with chemo, and even today her walking still hasn't returned to 100%. Along the way too, her scans were re-reviewed using new technology as part of a clinical trial, and her diagnosis was actually upgraded to stage 4. Naturally, we were gutted, and they'd found it in her spine, some other bones, and numerous other places around her body. Well, thanks to an amazing oncology team, and I mean amazing oncology team, she was declared cancer-free on the 29th of May 2020. So what was that science that I learned about cancer? Apart from remaining positive against all odds when they're stacked against you, I learned that cancer is never really cured. The definition varies, and in some cases it does go away forever, but here's a chart that'll help explain what I'm talking about. There's a chance this cancer was in my daughter's body well before it started, but it was below levels where they could actually detect it. Then boom, it took off and you could detect it above this threshold here. Now she officially has cancer. Insert chemo here, knock it down some more, and it eventually falls below the threshold where we can detect it and it becomes complete remission. At this point, as far as they can tell, there is no cancer in her body, and sometimes they often call this cured, especially if there are no signs of it for 5 years and beyond, because at that point it essentially probably is cured. Here's the kicker. There still could actually be cancer there, we just can't detect it. And assuming it never ramps up again, that's actually no issue. A recent article in The Conversation said there could actually be millions of cancer cells still there, they're just below levels where we can detect them. So what does that mean, knowing it still could be there the whole time? Well, to us, that's something we can't be worrying about. What we need to worry about is making sure that from here on we live life to the fullest. Not because we're worried that it'll come back, but we can't let that thought stop us being the greatest family we can possibly be. And you can apply this too. Take that same chart and write as the heading anxiety or alcoholism or anger or many other conditions that could be challenging you and stopping you being the greatest person you can be. Firstly, you need to find your chemo, the thing that knocks it down below the threshold where it can be managed. And once it's below the threshold, the condition that's challenging you may not actually ever be gone. But that's okay, some things never are. But you need to live your life better because of it. More positive, more grateful, and more hopeful. So at the end of the day, the cancer science I learned is that some challenges will never actually leave us, but we have the ability to beat them down below a threshold that allows us to continue living our life to the fullest. You've just been scienced and sort of motivated, or both.